Let's start with the issue that has been much in the news over the last couple of weeks, and it's the great commissioner compensation kerfuffle. And I understand there's been some action at the legislature today to deal with that question, and maybe we'll call on our most veteran legislator here, Representative Erdahl. Tell our viewers what the status of that is.
Well, the bill that we passed today in the House of Representatives was a deficiency bill, which included the commissioner kerfuffle, if you wish. The bill, $15.5 billion, made up for some shortfalls in various agencies. The St. Peter Hospital, I think $10.5 million of it, and then some money for Ebola research and work that had been done. Minnesota Zoo was $1.9 million. 1.3 million. So we did that, but then we had to deal with this pay raise that the governor had instituted. And let's just back up a little bit. A year ago, the majority of the DFL majority in the House and Senate passed a bill which allowed the governor to raise, or I guess if you chose to lower the salaries of his commissioners. And so the governor this year did this, and I guess we really didn't expect $25,000 to $35,000 pay increases to be implemented, around $800,000, and it's been well documented in the press. The governor, the DFL majority leader, the House leadership really got into kind of a tangle on this issue. And so what happened with the agreement reached is that the pay raise basically has been put on hold. In this bill, it was delayed until July 1st. It gives the governor basically 1 day to reinstate these raises at whatever level I guess he wishes, and then the authority to deal with these pay raises is once again back with the legislature, back in the House of Representatives. So that's solved the situation. I don't know that it is a perfect solution, but we believe that it's important to have the right reinstated in the legislature to decide this issue. And we would not have approved raises at this extent, but the governor has done so, and if he wants to reinstate it again, he can.
Senator Thompson, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, Representative Erdahl has accurately described the facts of the bill, no question about that. And I voted against the bill. I believe that it is a better bill than we got on the floor the first time. This conference report that we got, largely, honestly, because of the pressure that Speaker Daudt put on Democratic leadership to make it a little bit better and try to create a little bit more of accountability. I personally ended up still on the side of being very concerned about the governor, who described himself as unbound, being willing to give these kinds of raises when you look at an average salary in Minnesota being in the range of $50,000. To be increasing the compensation of people at that level concerned me. I didn't like the idea that we left that door open, and so that's why I voted as I did. Like I said, certainly we know House leadership on our side, Speaker Daudt in particular, worked hard to make this as good a bill as he could.
Senator?
Well, it was a deficiency bill, and a great deal of the money that was in the deficiency bill was directed towards a facility that is in my district, the Minnesota Security Hospital, for expenditures that were made and needed to be made because of provisional licenses and a variety of other impositions on the hospital that were not predicted in a budgetary process. So this was a very important bill for me to see get passed quickly through the legislature without pretty serious consequences occurring in St. Peter. The problem with the wage increases for commissioners got attached to this bill, and that becomes then the subject of everybody's conversation. But the underlying deficiency bill was critically important, and it has sort of lost the touch of the people to understand what was going on and what its importance is for the safety of people who work at the security hospital. The actual proposal about the governor having the authority to make these increases came out of a task force, out of a working group that was a variety of people. It was a bipartisan group that did make this recommendation to have the governor have the authority to make these. And that had to do with the fact that it's very difficult for us as legislators to increase salaries and wages because they get described in some of the ways in which these commissioners' salary increases have been described, simply on their percentages, without really talking about what is the role of the commissioner, how does this salary relate to even the city manager in the city of Mankato, who doesn't manage nearly the size of budget or the number of the people, is earning more than many of these really important commissioners who do very important work for the state. But that kind of conversation just doesn't occur. People sort of have their eyes glaze over, and it's just much easier to talk about the extreme percentages that have impacted the raises. Nevertheless, in order to get it off the table and so we could get working on the other really important work of this legislative session, the Senate took its action, the House took its action, and I do believe that the final agreement that I voted for today was worked out by the Speaker of the House, the Republican Speaker of the House, and the governor. It was what they came to an agreement to. And in order to get the deficiency bill passed, I needed to make certain that we moved this bill forward.
Your co-legislator from the North Mankato area was with us either last week or the week before. Time kind of runs together, but he talked a little bit about the need for that St. Peter bill and was quite eloquent about it, the importance of it. Representative Purcell, your thoughts on this?
Well, I don't know if I have, much to add. Fairly well chopped over, but deficiency bill, and it had something added on to it, and we needed to get the deficiency bill out there, and we did. And these commissioners, public servants, and we get them before our committees, and we beat them up one side and down the other. So. I think giving them a fair wage isn't a bad thing, and we'll see how that gets revisited next July.